Welcome to today's lesson. Now in this lesson, what I'd like to do is to show you how to connect to a MySQL database using the PDO extension. As you can see in front of me here, I have Visual Studio Code, got an index.php page currently blank, and in the browser I have two tabs open. The first one is just to show the contents of that index.php. The second one is PHP MyAdmin. I have a test database created, and inside that database I have one table called users, and inside that users table two rows, so two names, Sam and Peter. And we're going to use that to show you what happens when we connect to the database. Okay, well, the first thing I need to do is to create the connection. So we'll open a PHP code block, and the first thing I need will be to know the host. So where is my database stored? Now for me, I am using a localhost environment. So I can use that localhost keyword there. I can also use an IP address. If you are using an online environment, you'll need to check with your web host provider. The next thing I'll need is the name of my database. So database name, we'll put that equal to the name of the database, which was test. The next thing I need will be the username. Now for PHP MyAdmin, the default username is root. The other one I'll need is the password. Again, the default is root for me. Now again, you'll need to check these with your web host provider, or if you're using a different system, username and password might be different. I know on some older versions of PHP MyAdmin, the password was actually left blank. The next thing we need is the data source name, so DSN, and that is equal to the following. It's just a string, and inside my string, the first thing I need is the name of the database driver. That is MySQL. Then I need to specify the host, which is equal to that variable host at the top, and semicolon, and then what is the database name? And I've assigned that to a variable again, which is database name. Now all that's left to do is to actually create that connection. So I will create a database connection, and we'll put that equal to a new PDO. So this is the PDO class. And inside here is what I need to pass along to that class. So my arguments, I need the DSN, I need my username, and I need my password. And that is all we need to create that PDO connection. So if I go across to the browser, we'll go across to here and refresh, we won't actually see anything on the screen. So now there could be an error. We could have a look at the logs to see if anything's going on. In my case here, I know that has actually connected. But what if we did get an error? How can we handle that? Well, the first thing we need to do really is to use a try catch block. So we're going to do a try something, and we're going to catch any of the exceptions or errors in this catch block. And what are we going to try? Well, we're going to try and connect. So I'll copy that, or Command X, and pop it in there. Just close this up a little bit. So we're going to try and connect to the database. Now in this catch block, what I would like to do is to catch any PDO exceptions and store those in that variable error here. And what it'd be nice to do is to actually display a little message if we are successful in connecting to the database. So echo connection successful. And obviously if we get any errors, we'll echo out a little message here. So we'll just echo out any errors. So echo the error here. Let's go across to the browser. We'll do a quick refresh, and there we go. We've got connection successful. Well, what if I get an error? So let me just change the username to something else like root2. Go across and refresh. And there we get that PDO exception. Access denied for user root2, and a whole load of other information there. Now, ideally, we don't want to display all of that information. So what we can do is we can actually operate on this, and we can say get message. We'll go across, we'll refresh, And that's a little bit easier to read. So access denied for user root 2. The other thing we could do, instead of saying get message, we could say get code. And I would get the error code 1045. Now, if you think about it, what I could do with those error codes is I could do different tests. So if the error code is 1045, then I could display a specific message. So we could set up different error messages for different error codes. The last thing I would like to look at are error modes. So what I can do here underneath this database connection is I can take my database connection, I can operate on that, and I can set an attribute. And what the attribute I want to set is the error mode. So the PDO, and it's ATTR attribute error mode. And I'm going to set that to one of three things. It's either going to be an exception, it's either going to be a warning, or silent. And I'll show you the way the three of them work. So PDO, and this one is the error mode. And what am I setting the error mode to? Well, by default, it's already set at exception. So we'll pop that in and just finish that line off with a semicolon in here. Now, to show you the way this works, what I will do is I will connect to the database. I'll go to the users table and retrieve data from the users and just display them on the screen. Let me just make a little bit more space here. So we'll just close this down. We'll scroll up a little bit here, maybe just zoom in a little bit for you. And in here, what I would like to do is to set up a little SQL statement here. So what I want to do is to select star, so select everything from users. I suppose I could just select the name, I suppose. I could say in here, select name from users, but I might as well select everything from users. Now what I want to do next is to take my database connection and I want to run a query on that. So query, and inside the round brackets, what is the query? What is that? It's that SQL statement. Now once I've run that query, I want to store the results as users. So I should get a list of users returned. And then what I want to do is to loop through that and display the username. So for each something, I'm going to do something. And for each what? Well, for each of those users as a single user, I'm going to take each of those single users and I'm going to echo out the user, square brackets, semicolon, and inside here, I could say, well, give me the user name or the user ID. I could do it as 0, that would give me the ID. 1 would give me the name. So that's to do with the position in the array. I'll just use the name of the field, which is name. Now, just so I can see each of those users on a separate line, let's just do this as an unordered list. So list item in here, and quotes around that, quotes around that. We'll grab that user from there and just pop it in the middle here. So that will just give us a wrapped username in a list item. Let's go across the browser. We shall refresh. Well, we've still got that error, so I just need to fix up here that username here. So we'll get rid of that, go across and refresh. Connection successful, and we have the two names returned. Well, what if we had an error in the actual table name here? Let's say users 2. We'll go back, refresh, and we get a different code here. We could display the full message. So let's take off this, go back and refresh. And then we've got this horrible, long, complicated message that we really wouldn't want to be displayed on the screen. Obviously, I can say get message. We get something that's a little bit easier to read. But the whole idea of this error mode exception and error mode silent and error mode warning is to do different things. Now, currently we have the error mode set to error mode exception, which means that the script will stop working from this point onwards. We have the error here, which means none of this will actually run. Now, if I change this to warning, so let me get rid of this. I will change it to warning. We'll go back. We shall refresh. We've got the connection is successful. Obviously, we still have an error here, but what we aren't seeing is the error that's generated from trying to do this. So let me show. I'll bring in the error logs. So here we go. We've got a PHP error log, and in here we can see we have that the users table doesn't exist. And in here, we've then got this invalid argument on the for each. So we've got two little warnings displayed here. Now let me just actually get rid of that. I'll just delete that and show you what happens when I put it as an exception. If I go back to here and do exception, so I'll just undo that. And we'll go back and we shall refresh on here. You can see we've got the base table not found here, but we don't get anything in the error logs. Now the next thing I can do is to change this to silent. So let me just put in silent. Let's go back, we shall refresh. It says connection successful. Let's have a look at the error message this time. Now this time it hasn't said anything about the error that's generated here. It's remained silent about that particular error. However, we do get an error here, a normal PHP error, because we're trying to use users within this for each loop, and obviously that doesn't exist. So the three error modes. First one is the silent error mode. This error here will not be picked up in the logs, and we won't see anything on the screen, and the script will continue. Obviously, we'll get an error here, just a normal PHP error here. The second one is the warning. Now for the warning, we will get a log entry, but the script will continue. We'll also get a little normal PHP warning or a little error here as normal, and nothing will appear on the screen. And the third one is the error mode exception. Nothing will appear in the logs, and the script will stop at this point here. I hope you found today's lesson useful and that you will now go off and try to connect to your own MySQL databases, and that you'll use those attributes, those error modes, to help you in identifying what potentially is going wrong with your scripts, to check your logs, and to use those get messages and get codes to maybe even personalize things a little bit more.